Hello.
Going, man.
Good. How are you?
Good.
Sweet. Before we get started, just another reminder that we do record our consultations. It's on a form and everything, so just a heads up on that. Cool. So, I didn't get a chance to read your consultation form yet. But go ahead, just fill me in with any important information that you think is needed for me to know. I'll be taking notes as you go along, and then we'll go from there.
Cool. Sounds good. So yeah, I guess the main reason I contacted you guys was that my dog, she used to being around people, but we just moved, and it's not just because of the move, because she's done it since moving to Chicago, I guess, but
Okay.
strangers that, and it's not everyone either. Just some strangers that she like notices or looks at, she'll start this like really deep, like threatening growl. She's never bit anyone, never even came close to biting anyone. But she does like look defensive when she does it. Like her hair stands up, she stops wagging her tail, and she just growls at them. And then normally, if you let her sniff you, and then you give her a pet, she's like your best friend. But definitely that growl, especially in the building I am in. She can't be doing that. Like
Correct.
she could even get her in this building. And um, we had an incident in the elevator. It was her first time ever in an elevator, which probably isn't the best, but some guy came in the elevator for the first time with her, and she just growled at him, went up, sniffed him, kind of backed up, and still growled at him, even though she sniffed him. Normally she'd be fine, but she just continued growling, kind of looked really aggressive. I didn't know if she was gonna do anything crazy or not, but she like luckily didn't. But that's probably the biggest issue I've seen of lately. um I did take some. Give me just a moment. Hopefully this doesn't end the meeting, but I took some, like, I put a bullet point list together
Sure. Sweet.
of like some of the big things that like I was hoping to get from this training, if you think it's possible, but also just like I grouped it up into behavior, commands, and then some things that are just annoying that if they can be fixed, like, or if there's ways you guys know how to solve it, that'd be great. But for the behavior, I put like the growling at strangers is number one. Um,
And then real quick, for the growling of strangers, is that only in your building or is that also on your walks?
it's rarely on walks, but I notice it more when like someone is like looking at her and like looks scared of her, then she gets all defensive. But yeah, most commonly it's definitely more common inside for her to do it, even if like someone's walking towards her down a hall.
Got it. Okay, sweet. You can go ahead and continue.
And then my second thing was when I'm taking her on walks, I just can't control her when she sees an animal,
Okay.
like any sort of birds, squirrels, other dogs. She's fine. She could care less. And she's super friendly to other dogs as well. So dogs aren't an issue. But yeah, any other kind of animal, even fish, like we'll straight up be walking like the lakeside, and she saw a fish there once, so now she just wants to like scan the lakeside, and like when she sees one, acts like she's going to jump in and pull me with her. So
Okay.
um, that's probably another big one. Now this one, it's not that big a deal, but it's really annoying. She begs for food. Obviously, she spent a year with my parents. They gave her human food.
I
They
see.
did not listen. So she just does not stop begging for food. She'll stop temporarily, like if you tell her go away, and like no, she'll go away. But it's just a common theme. She likes
I
to jump up on the counter and grab bread loaves. So
okay, okay. I got
yeah,
you.
yeah. What are you
Anything
gonna say?
else?
And then mild jumping. Like she doesn't jump on everyone, but mild jumping up on people.
And what's the breed?
She's a chocolate lab,
And then what's her name?
Paisley.
And how much does she weigh?
She's like pushing 90.
Oh wow, big girl.
Yeah, she's a big girl.
Um, and then how old is she?
Right around 2 and some months.
Okay. Um, for the elevator and your walk, and when someone looks at her, I'm getting a lot of it seems like she's kind of like a nervous dog. Okay. So how that looks and works is basically a nervous dog triggers or is just stressed about sudden changes or surprises. So a lot of times nervous dogs become reactive or triggered with the elevator because when those doors open, it's just the person's there and there's no like warning for the dog. It's just like a surprise. So it causes a trigger. When you're on your walks, sometimes clients will say, yeah, we'll be on a walk, and then someone will just say, hello, and then my dog will just blow up barking, right? Looking at them, sometimes joggers trigger them as well because it's just an unordinary behavior or just unordinary people. So like if someone has like an awkward limp, it's gonna cause some stress or some concern from these nervous dogs. Now there are such thing as like obviously how intense is the nervousness, right? So it seems like, you know, has she ever gone full blown like barking and lunging before, or backing away and lunging, or just barking, just growling?
Yeah, it's typically just growling, but she'll growl and then she'll like commit to going towards the person to sniff them.
I see.
So, so like she'll growl at them, sniff them, and then she'll typically back up and either semi chill out, but like keep her eye on them and kind of stay on guard, or
Okay.
else she, like I just saw this past time with the elevator. I'm sure that was extra for her because if it's just me and her in the elevator, does not care about the elevator whatsoever. But with that guy, she growled, sniffed him. That guy even put his hand down to like try and be friendly to her, and then she backed up and still growled at him. So,
And then how is she in your home? Like if someone were to come over, how would she take to that person?
so we just tried that out over this weekend. We had a new friend never seen, and I even gave him like a treat to hold before I let her out. And I said, she's going to growl at you. Just give her the treat and give her a pet. She's going to be your best friend. She came around the corner, saw him, growled, ran up to him, and then he like pet her. And then she kind of like doubled back, started wagging her tail, and then he gave her a treat, and then that was it. They were best friends.
Okay.
So,
Has she had any like negative experiences in the home that you've seen in the past, or have they all been consistently the same, just like that scenario?
it's typically that scenario. It's just a new face, new person. She's gonna growl at them. The only other story I can think of where she did it, I think she might have like I don't know, maybe some attachment issues because it was her and my girlfriend. She was watching her over the weekend in our apartment. She had her family over. She never seen their family before, and from what I have heard, she was like good with them even coming in, didn't growl at them or anything. She like she has a little problem with happy peeing, so she like happy peed when she met him. But then my girlfriend went into a different room to go do something, and it was just her family sitting on the couch, and the dog sat in front of the room my girlfriend was in and just sat there and would not stop growling at them on the couch. Um, out. So
And then how was that handled? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I wasn't there, but I'm sure she was told no. And then but I'm sure her family kind of just sat there and took it. So
Um, it could have been a territorial thing. or it could have been like a trigger. So a lot of times for nervous dogs, because let's say she meets someone and she's cool with them, and then maybe you guys, whoever's visiting, let's say your girlfriend, let's say she's meeting your girlfriend for the first time, right? You guys greet each other, we're all good, and then we all sit down and like you're watching a movie. And then Paisley is just relaxing. And then all of a sudden your girlfriend gets up. Sometimes that can also trigger a nervous dog, laughing or some loud energy. So what could have happened is maybe it could have been a territorial thing, or maybe she started growling when maybe people were laughing, or something had been done to like trigger her into that mode. But it could have been either one. But the fact that you've had her for 2 years and this is the only time she's ever done that, I'm probably not gonna be too worried about. We'll see how it goes. But once we start to tackle that nervousness in the home when guests arrive, right? It should start to decline as well. But we'll see. We'll keep knowing how often that happens and stuff like that. What else? And then when did you move to Chicago?
About a year ago now.
So you've been here a year already with her. It's good. And anything else you should know about Paisley?
She's a terrible walker.
Okay. What do you walk
Huh?
What is it? Is she walk on a prong collar, harness, gentle leader?
Yeah, tried the harness and collar. She just pulls nonstop, and then had her going on the prong collar. I tend to resort to the prong collar because she'll kind of like listen when I like pop it if she's pulling. Um, but it doesn't affect her that much, especially if she gets distracted by something. She's just gonna pull in that prong collar and not stop. So
Yeah, so usually Labradors, Goldens, and like bully breeds, they're all pretty tough dogs, right? Especially like those labs, because they're so happy-go-lucky. They're bred for hunting. They're bred for durability, right? So sometimes prong collar, they're able to override it or just completely blow it off because it's like nothing to them, right? With prong collar, you can get some successes. You can kind of get like a foundation for teaching heel, stay, sit down, calm place. Recall would just really be on leash all the time, so you don't really get that off leash recall. So prong collar definitely does have a very low ceiling, right, for obedience and behavior work. It's also very nuanced, right? You have to know how to like communicate leash pressure to the dog, corrections like the leash pops, or just gradual pressure. It's always going to be different. It's not always like the same, especially for every dog, right? So we don't offer programs for prong collar. We're more for like e-collar, right? Because prong collar, like I said, it might be like a hit or miss. Sometimes dogs are very like aware of it, and then the owner sees progress right away. But then we've also had clients say that, yeah, we put a prong collar on my dog and it was great. But then a week later, the dog didn't care anymore, right? And then all that stuff is normal because again, dogs just get used to it, right? Why it can be effective to certain dogs, or why it's supposed to be effective, is supposed to the way the prongs are shaped, it's supposed to mimic a dog bite, right? The prong collar is a physicality tool, right? So when Paisley's going forward or she lunges at something and we pop her or she hits the end of the prong, it all closes and it's like a correction, it corrects her, right? Dogs communicate with each other with physicality, right? There's a really good YouTube video out there. It's a cream retriever, or maybe it's a lab, but she's entering her little playpen. She's got a litter in her playpen, and then she's entering, and they all start to run up on her. It was a viral video. You might have seen it. All these little puppies start to run up on her, and then she stays still. She starts to growl, and she snaps at three puppies. Boom, 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 and then you hear them go, bah! Right, and then they all run away, and they all lay down, and it's quiet, right? So from that little age, from the young age, they've been getting corrected. they've been getting that physicality from their mothers, right? Because that's how they communicate. She can't say no, down, leave it, off, right? They don't have language like humans do, right? We can communicate to each other if we don't like something or if we like something. So prong collar, that's where that, I guess, the psychology comes from, is again to kind of communicate in a dog's language, because we've seen good responses in the past, right? E-collar. E-collar is also a tool that offers physicality. You are aware that we train with e-collars, correct? Sweet.
Yep.
Have you had any experience with e-collars in the past?
Um, with some of my like family dogs, we've had like electric fence. Supposed to keep them in, didn't work. I was told to use an e-collar with her. I've just been holding off in case something serious happens, such as this, where I'm like, okay, I need to like get her trained.
Sure, yeah. E-collar fence usually is the same thing. A lot of times where clients mess up with the e-collar fences is that sometimes I notice that wherever you buy the e-collar fence, it doesn't really give you like clear instructions, right? So a lot of times the collar might be too loose, the level is too low, but it is technically sometimes, depending on the brand, can be the same feeling, right? However, we're not trying to, because with the e-collar fence, you want the level to be really high because you don't want the dog to ever cross a boundary. So it needs to be high, right? When we're training with e-collar, we don't really need to use that in the moment, especially when we're in the beginning stages of it, because now we're just freaking the dog out and the dog is just overwhelmed with pressure, right? But we'll talk about that later. So e-collar, the technology comes from a, let's call it TENS unit. Are you familiar with a TENS unit? Chiropractors, physical therapy, they use it to contract muscles if it's torn. That same feeling they feel at physical therapy is the same feeling the e-collar gives, the stimulation, right? The brand we use is called Dogtra. This brand has been used by Jesse for more than half his career. He's tried the other brands before, but this has given him the best out of the dogs when he's training with them. And on the collar, there are 127 levels of stimulation. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 127 of stim. On e-collar fences or other brands, you might see 8 levels or 16, right? Don't think we have 100 more levels of power. Their maximum 8 and our maximum 127 are equal. They feel the same, but we can be way more specific to the dog's personality, the breed, or the scenario we're in, right? So like, I'm pretty sure if you can imagine if we're using a level or a collar with 8 levels, and let's say for Paisley, 5 is making her yelp. It's too much power. But then 4, she ignores. She doesn't care. Well, now you're stuck. You're either going to have the dog ignoring you or yelping, right? Versus Dogtra, 20 is too high, 15 is too low. We can go to 16, 17, 18. We can be very specific, and there are very little jumps between each number, right? They're waterproof. You get a mile to half-mile long range. So to sum it all up, it is electric, yes, but it's not electricity flowing to the dog's body, right? So whatever those 2 contact points are touching is what it's contracting, right? That's what that physicality is, and that's where, like, you know, the mental stuff starts to kind of kick in of like, oh, this is real. This is touching me. How do I turn this off, right? Any questions so far about the technology or the e-collar itself?
No, it sounds good. I mean, she was really supposed to. I'll say that like I was trying to train her to be a hunting dog. Um, we never got that far just because I don't know. I probably was doing something wrong, but like she knows basic commands. She just won't do it when you say it, like the first time you say it. She just won't do it. And then she's weird. Like sometimes she's food motivated, sometimes she's not. So I think electric collar is probably the way to go. I've seen dogs train on electric collar. It's all good with me. So
Yeah, I mean, sounds like you know, even like the hunting dogs, they already have their e-collars on and the GPS trackers and all that stuff. So it's
Mm.
definitely there, you know, with the breed and all that stuff. So that's good. Um, so how we begin in the introduction with e-collar to Paisley. The first exercise we do is called heel. Heel is our walking command. Our version of heel is very strict. Our version of heel means you walk with me, you stay with me, and then you sit when I stop, right? So if you take 5 steps with Paisley, Paisley takes 5 steps. If you take 10, she takes 10. And then when you come to a stop, she's to automatically sit with no words, keeping her shoulder parallel to you the whole walk. Loose leash in any environment. I don't care how many fish are swimming around her, right? That's how strict the heel needs to be. Okay. So the reason why we teach this right away, the obvious reason would be for a nice structured walk. But the other main reason why we teach this is for her to understand how the e-collar works, right? So throughout this process, we're answering her questions such as, where is this coming from? When does it go away? When does it arrive? And how do I turn it off, right? So a lot of times people kind of assume e-collar training is when a dog is growling at you and then you blast them on maximum, right? That's incorrect, right? Before we dive into the human stuff in the elevator and things like that, we need to have her understand what this means first, right? Because if we go straight into, you know, those behavior stuff, right? She's gonna be very confused and not really know what's going on. So nothing's gonna be getting done in that moment. So again, having her understand where this is coming from. Also, Pacey won't ever know that this feeling is coming from you, right? So sometimes owners are like, is my dog gonna hate me because you know, I'm electrocuting them, right? Technically, no, because there's nothing physically connected to you and the feeling. Prong collar. Dogs know you're using that tool because the leash is connected to the collar, right? Um, so where does she think it's coming from? Usually the dogs just think it's just something that's happening. I had one owner say Big Brother was speaking to them, or the universe, whatever you want to call it, right? But it's something that's just there, right? So why this can be good is it's non-confrontational, right? There's no yelling, there's no yanking, there's no cranking, there's no, you know, emotion in this. It's very neutral way to train a dog, and there's no confrontation, which means there's no tension or anything that's like making the dog uncomfortable or whatever, right? So it's very a healthy way to kind of communicate to a dog in a very neutral sense. Because when we add emotion, we're just kind of heightening the energies and everything like that, right? So again, for the obedience stuff, having that heel is really good. And then understanding the e-collar. So sometimes it sounds like her nervousness is like on like a scale of 1 to 10, probably like a 3 maybe or a 4. If there's any human tension on walks, once we teach you heel, sometimes about 80% of the time, human reactivity or any tension goes away on its own. You don't need to do anything to tackle that directly. Okay. So like if I'm dealing with a reactive dog, who like barks and just reacts to everything, right? If there's any human reactivity, it goes away on its own, done deal. I don't need to address it. It just goes away. Then it goes calm dogs. Then it goes bikes, roller skaters, skateboards, or joggers. Then it's other reactive dogs. And the last thing that's really hard to cover are you turn the corner and there's a dog or a person there. That's the hardest because you can't be ready for that, right? So that's kind of how like the spectrum works and how kind of progress kind of makes their way when we're dealing with a dog who is reactive to like everything, all the above, right? So with that human stuff, there is a chance it might go away, right? We're kind of have to see that. Why it goes away is because kind of like the psychology behind the heel and using the e-collar is that technically, if Paisley is so focused on your heel command, technically nothing else should matter, right? Because she's more concerned about keeping that shoulder parallel with your leg and keeping here, not worrying about the bunny or squirrel, because the bunny or squirrel she can't get and it won't go to her or touch her, right? So she's gonna be like thinking like, okay, if I go to the squirrel or the squirrel's, I'm not gonna get the squirrel. The squirrel's not gonna touch me. But this is real. This is actually touching me and it's affecting me. The squirrel is not doing anything towards me. So what should I pay attention more? What should I pay more attention to? It'll be the collar, right? So again, certain behaviors on your walk might just go away on its own. But it's totally normal if you're like, hey, Enrique, this week was great. We saw people, no growls, birds, no lunging, but squirrels are still an issue. Then we'll tackle squirrels, right? I had a dog recently. His name's Sunny, and he was reactive to everything, very overstimulated pity. He'd come out, he starts scanning and start whining, right? We teach her heel. She comes back to me second class. She says he saw birds for the first time after your class, and he didn't do anything. He didn't lunge. He didn't even look at them. He just kept walking, right? So certain behaviors like that go away. By second class, Sunny was good at calm dogs, but then still reacting to other dogs who were wagging their tail at him or giving him attention. So then that's what we were covering for that class in the next one, right? So it's kind of like we teach you one thing, can give you feedback how to go. Obviously, depending on the program and stuff like that, but that's kind of how that first class works. Once we teach heel, then we can go ahead and go over stuff like in the building, and I will give you tips of how to manage within that first week before we have that in-home class. Again, whatever program you teach, we teach you. Any questions about that?
No, I don't think so. I'm pretty confident that I think that teaching her heel would probably get her, like you said, 80% there. I wasn't too worried about her. I mean, she does she does, I'm not gonna lie, she does lose control when she sees like a squirrel or some ducks or something like that, and she thinks I'm going to give her the opportunity. Well, I guess it's different. So squirrels, it's just out of here, right? She's gonna try and chase them. She's gonna pull against me and do whatever, and I can't stop her. Like I can literally go up to her, grab her, and try like pulling her back, like pulling her legs or something, and she's gonna try and keep driving. Like it doesn't matter what I do. Ducks, I've gotten her to the point where I can kind of like give her a tug on the prong collar and say, "Come on," and like she's still gonna keep her eye out and like still not be focused on the walk really, but she's not gonna pull super hard against me. But yeah, I just guess I'm not understanding completely how it's gonna solve the growling at strangers because she acts different when it's like that, right? Like it's not like an out of control like excitement that I was talking about with animals. It's like I guess it's nervousness, but it doesn't seem like she's nervous of people. Like it seems like she's more I don't it's kind of a mix between like nervousness and like aggression kind of when she's doing it. So,
Yeah, aggression is very rare, right? There is such thing as like obviously aggressive nervous dog, aggressive anxious dog, and aggressive fearful dog, right? Pure aggression, if she wanted to bite someone, she would have done it already a long time ago. It would have been obvious, right? An anxious, aggressive dog tends to move a lot, right? So when someone comes in the home, they're pacing, they're drooling, they can't settle, they just can't do anything about it. And then when you try to confront that dog and you're stressing them out, they might do some snaps and like be very like insecure about it, right? A nervous, aggressive dog never settles, right? Or maybe they do settle, but then they trigger right away. But they're always just low grumbling, just watching you, just very unsure. And then when you approach them or when you stick your hand out, there would be a bite because now you've cornered that dog or you've put pressure on that dog. And in that dog's mind, they're thinking, okay, I'm giving growling to, signals to this person to not come near me, but they keep approaching me, right? So I had to defend myself. They're thinking, they're in danger. So they're going to do whatever they can to let them know I don't like this, or that, I'm going to have to show aggression at some point, right? So same thing for humans, right? It's not like, obviously, if we push certain buttons with some people, aggression will come out. That's just everyone. It can also be of dogs, right? So if I go up to a dog and I pull their tail and the dog's never bit anyone, but I keep pulling their tail and he bites me, well, the dog's not aggressive. I just had to push these specific buttons to make that dog become aggressive, right? So the nervousness, we see it all the time, where we see the grumbling, the growling, but then nothing happens, right? You go up to touch that dog, you leash them up, and then they're like, okay, whatever, you came to leash me up. They didn't commit to it because they're cowards, right? They always move away. Like, I don't want confrontation, right? But then you do get some of those dogs, depending on how much, because it's never just nervous dog. It can be nervous, anxious. It's like a bunch of like different scales of what the dog is specifically, right? So recently we had a nervous, aggressive dog. Nervousness was about here. The aggression was here. You walk in, he's growling you already. You try to approach to leash him up. Boom, he's gonna lunge at you, and then it's a fight. He throws his biggest spiel, and he bit hard. It was like an 8-pound little white fluffy dog, right? He was like legit. He was like, "You're not gonna touch me," right? So with Paisley, when I hear aggressive, we have to think, have there been any bites? If there's been any bites, were they punctures? Do they need stitches? Did she hold on to it? When we, pulled her away from the guest, did she return to aggression and try to go back to the person, or did she just let it go? Right? So there's specific things that, makes a dog aggressive. Okay. What I'm hearing here, she's two-year-old chocolate lab, nothing that intense. Breed, and the fact she's 2 years old, she's been with multiple people before, and the most she's done is growl, right? I don't really foresee anything happening, or anything kind of giving me of aggressive or be careful, she might bite you. Because again, like I said, she would have done it a long time ago. Lunging at ducks, squirrels, and growling at people are connected. Okay. When she's growling at someone, how do you think they would be connected? So one, lunging at squirrels or lunging at the fish, whatever it is, prey drive, isn't so much looked as like a bad thing. Like, she's not hurting anyone. So it's like, oh, well, she's a dog, she's gonna do it, right? But what's wrong with a dog growling at a stranger? Dogs are territorial animals. They're protecting their owner, right? So technically, in dog world, it's okay. But in human world, we can't have that because we live in a building. We might get kicked out. People complain about it, right? So a dog is thinking like a dog, doing what a dog should be doing, right? But doesn't translate well. So when we see a dog lunge at a squirrel or just stay stuck on something, right? They're doing it out of impulse. They just do it, right? Or they're stuck, right? When she's in your building or she sees someone, she's stuck thinking these thoughts, and she's just acting impulsively, growling, barking, lunging, hackles, right? She's stuck in this, who is this person? Why are they in here? The elevator opened, and all these thoughts are happening, right? She can't let it go. She also can't let the duck or the squirrel go on these walks, right? So they both come from the same thing. They are different, yes. But once we start to address and apply rules and boundaries to her and kind of giving her something else to be concerned about, and she will be concerned about it, right? You'll see her second guess herself. Someone opens the elevator, she might be like, oh, this is weird. I want to, go into this mode, but is it worth it? Because I have the collar on. When you start to address the nervousness and you snap her out of that thought, from there, you get curiosity. Now she's like, okay, if I can't growl at this person and dad's telling me to let it go and he's speaking to me in my language to the point where I can understand, right? Well, then who is this guy? And then that's when you see the brain to start to open and accept information and actually want to become curious and is able to kind of have an introduction where there's no hackles still standing up and she's still unsure. So you'll start to see her kind of quickly acclimate to people. That process will be quicker. Or we might not even get any haggles or growling when someone comes into your home, since that's already easy. You might get to the point where that just doesn't happen. Elevators is going to be the hardest thing because, again, that's a surprise, right? But what we can teach you is just how to manage it and just control it so she's not going to be throwing a fit to your guests and then you get the complaint or whatever. But more of just like, hey, I know someone's here, but they don't want to meet you and you're growling at them. This is inappropriate, right? Just to have more control so everyone around you feels safe. Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely does. And even you talking about, aggressive and whatnot, you definitely talked me out of it. I don't think, you know,
I had
she's never.
for sure. I had a client recently. Her dog greeted another dog, and the owners were talking, and then her dog, my client's dog, jumped on the owner and just scratched her. And then my client was like, oh, and this was before training. My client was like, oh my gosh, like, are you okay? And she's like, no, I'm actually bleeding. My client was like, oh, you're bleeding. I can take you to the hospital. It's right around the corner. And then the other lady was like, no. And then they left, right? Then my client gets a letter in the mail about a bill from the vet or from the hospital because apparently the cut got infected. 2 weeks, 3 weeks later pass. My client's walking with her dog. Here comes the corner. Boom, these two dogs get into a scuffle. It's the same lady from the cut. They go at it, they're yelling and everything like that. And then she has a consultation with me and she's like, is my dog aggressive? I'm like, no. Unfortunately, you had two incidents with the same person, right? But your dog's not aggressive, right? Caught by surprise. Last time the dog met this dog was there was a lot of tension, right? Before. So they get by surprise, they both go at it, right? Because it's like, whoa, right? The other time, she jumped, she left a mark, she left a scar, but this dog is also like 8, 9 years old, and she's never had any incidents. I'm like, your dog's not aggressive, right? If we get a dog who has, we've had clients come to us with like, yeah, my dog's 2 years old and he bites us seriously and we get into dog fights every week. I'm like, okay, like this is a problem, right? You clearly have an aggressive dog, right? And we've had dogs where we can't even get into the door. We try to open it up and we'll wear it with suits because we're going to assume we're going to get bit. And they're already latched onto my leg. I can't even get in the door, right? That's been like, again, it's really rare, but it's still there. And that's when like, like once you see it, that's true aggression, right? But yeah, I'm not assuming Paisley's aggressive. I do see a little bit of nervousness. Again, like I said, can you push certain buttons and make her aggressive? Yeah. But that's like any dog. That's like any person, right? You can, if you push them enough, something's gonna happen. Any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, I have thought of a few. Um, so, dog. Now, sometimes I do leave Paisley at my parents' house, and they definitely do have an aggressive dog, but not aggressive towards humans. But any other dog he sees outside, not inside, he will go after, and he has hurt them on multiple occasions. So, like, you can't really bring him outside, or if there's a dog around that type of behavior, gonna affect any training, or like is there something to combat that with, or you know what I mean? Like if she's in that same household, which she probably will be sometimes,
Yeah.
uh,
So
type of like dog with.
yeah. So it was you were kind of going in and out, but from what I've gathered, I think you were saying your parents have an aggressive dog who can get very reactive. Is that going to affect Paisley when she's over there, correct? Okay, so
Yeah.
so yes and no. Paisley isn't that intense to the point where it'll affect her. So what I mean by that is if Paisley's over there and she's seeing this happen, can she learn from it? Yes. But when she goes back to you, she can't get to the point where she understands, oh, I'm back with dad who holds me accountable, who does the e-collar stuff, and has a lot of control over me. I better watch myself, right? Um, if I have a reactive client and and it's legit reactive and it's a full blown, it's very intense, and they're with a dog who's also reactive, it doesn't make them worse if we're already training, but it can't hold back progress, right? So if we're trying to make progress with reactivity, but then 70, 50% of the dog's life is in the house blowing up and barking at other dogs or on the walk with the other dog, then it's going to be very difficult, to kind of make progress. Paisley, again, I don't see her, I don't hear her, you never said, if she's reactive or not. So it shouldn't be a problem. Because again, it's just not that intense for her, for it to be like affecting her. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I mean, she won't be over there too often. I was just on what, if that's affected dogs, if you see them like for maybe an extended, like let's say 2 weeks, if she was over there, is she just gonna lose everything she lost? I just because she does already kind of like you can tell like when I'm talking to her and like giving her commands and stuff, she'll like be more prone to doing it and like listen to me. But it's also funny, like if I walk away, like she knows what like when I'm gone and what she's gonna do, and then I'll get back and I walk through the door, she'll be sitting there and like she knows she did something bad. I'm like, bro, like what'd you do? I'll go find it. And like I don't like I tell her no and it's bad and she knows exactly, like digging through the trash or something like that. She does that a lot. And then she'll like sit there, hang her head down, not wag her tail. She knows. How do you correct her from making the right decision when you're not there?
Yeah. Um, that's that's the most difficult thing for dog training is moments when the owner isn't present, right? So it's more of like not thinking specifically about the action she's doing, but more of like why she's doing it, right? So one time I had a client, as they were getting ready to leave, the dog is whining and already in a state of anxiety. And then when they leave, it's like they left the dog hanging, right? They're like, what the hell? All these thoughts are happening. And then, the frustration has to go somewhere, right? Dogs are very mouth-based animals. So whenever you see a dog get overly excited, they'll run, grab something and start chewing on it because the frustration has to go somewhere, right? And a dog who's anxious and nervous, they'll start drooling because that's just, again, that's how mouth-based animals are. So if for example, if the dog's left, you know, frustrated or like you're leaving, like they're left like, oh God, like they left and then they do something in result of that, right? So it's more about like leaving on a calm note, making sure the dog is calm. But again, we would have to kind of see, you know, what it looks like and what the home looks like and what we can do to kind of tackle that. I've had clients who, set up a camera and then as they leave, they watch the dog and they haven't left, but they're like outside the home and they do use the e-collar to correct certain behaviors. And they kind of just practice that every other day. So then when they do leave for a long time, the dog is already assuming, okay, if I do that when they're gone, I get corrected, even when they're not here. So I'm just not going to do it, right? We've had our other clients, what they do is they kind of, again, leave on a calm note, and a dog is able to just be chill throughout the whole time the guest is gone. And we've had other clients just tell us like, hey, if I leave my dog in a room or in the crates or in like a playpen area, I have no issues. So, if the free roam is causing that, I just do that. And then we're like, okay, then you can do that, whatever makes you happy. We like to address the actual problem. But if you're like, no, I just put in my room and we're good, then I don't care. As long as whatever the client's doing, and if it's working, if it's making them happy, then so be it, But it's kind of more of like, what's happening, And then, when you start to introduce the structured walk with heel, because you'll be doing it a lot, right? You'll start to notice things, again, indirectly to the e-collar stuff and what we're teaching you go away. So one time I had a dog who would stare at shadows and glares. Like they would just stare at the wall and they would just like drool, and they're just like stuck, right? By third class, that went away on its own. It was just gone. Dogs who are demand barking or want to play at the evening time, like the zoomies, right? That goes away on its own sometimes too, right? Because it is mentally exhausting to have that strict walk. So not only you're physically exercising Paisley, but you're also getting the mental exercise. So now she's getting really fulfilled on these walks. So in result of that, you might not see frustration or her begging or doing these things because she's just kind of tired and more calm because she got a full circle of exercise, right? Any other questions?
No, I don't think so. And I think a lot of what you're saying definitely makes sense. Especially that last point you made, because you can tell like when she's had like a long day of like running or something, you can call her name as loud as you want. Random people can come walk in. You can push her to like kind of wake up for a second and just continue sleeping. Like she's just so I guess that even could be part of it, is just adding structure to every walk. Would be good. Now, I don't know if you said it or not. I did write down like a list of demands like I would really like her to do. Heel was definitely one
Sure.
there, but does the training include I just have basic ones. I have this under there, like walking without pulling. Do you think that like the training kind of conditions her to like only walk correctly when the shock collar's on?
Yeah, so that's a good question. All dogs are different. The most common dog is an opportunistic dog. So an example we like to use for our clients is, do you drive on the highway?
Uh, what, like right now?
Yeah.
No, I don't have a car up here, so no, not.
Have you ever driven on the highway before?
Yeah,
Did you go the speed limit?
yeah,
You did?
yeah.
Really?
I really do.
Okay. Usually, clients will tell me no, and they kind of just go above. And then I'll say, what happens when you see a squad car? Oh, I slow down, right? Opportunistic behavior. Once we see that we can get away with something, we're going to get away with it. So Jesse likes to call the cop on a collar, right? When the cop is present, you're like, uh-oh, better watch myself, right? Now, have I had dogs not wear the e-collar and still perform? Yes. And then I've also had other dogs where the moment it's off, boom, they're trying to push things again, right? Now, on walks in general, your e-collar should always be on. Now, the reason why we always tell our clients this is because you can't predict what's going to happen on this walk, right? So for my dog is already 4 years old, and I've had her on e-collar since 4 months, 5 months. I did use it a lot at the beginning, but now I'm at the point where maybe I press the button like 2 times a month. But it's on because, one, again, I can't predict what's going to happen on this walk. So my dog Lola has never experienced a car backfiring right next to us. She's never experienced a firework going off right next to us when it's not near 4th of July. She's never seen a coyote bolt by. She's never seen certain things, right? So whenever that does happen, I know that I'm already prepared for it, right? We've heard a lot of stories where, clients, all of a sudden the leash breaks, leash slip out, they get pulled to the ground, and the dog is running away from some sudden noise, right? When a dog is in that state, we call that flight mode. And when dogs are in flight mode, they're thinking kill or be killed. So they're running for their life. But if you have the e-collar, you can make them do the 180 and come back to you immediately to override that flight mode, right? Override the I don't want to die, right? That's really important. So it's not so much of like you're still using it after your program. If you are still using it a lot after your program, then there's something's wrong, something needs to be changed there. But it's more of like it's on just in case, right? In the home, if you're not gonna have any guests come over, and she's chill, or maybe you have a guest come over and she already knows the guest and everyone's chill, then she doesn't need to wear the e-collar. It's more of like it's on when you need it, right? Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it does.
And it has nothing to do with, Paisley, me, you. It's just a nature thing, right? Again, if we know we can get away with something, we're going to get away with it, right? So it's just better to be, safe rather than sorry. But again, it's more of like, now, are there ways to properly condition a dog and wean them off e-collar? Yeah, but it's more for like a trainer, right? There is a method to the point where like a person, if you raise a puppy and every time you put the flat collar on, the e-collar also goes on, the puppy can one day recognize that since the flat collar is on, they're assuming the e-collar is on. But again, if one day something happens and you're like, I did not know that was going to happen, and the dog messes up, now you're stuck, right?
Yeah.
So it's again, all dogs are different. So I'm not saying Paisley's going to be that dog who's going to, you take the collar off and she's going to immediately pull. They're all different there. Does it make sense?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And then just quickly, I know our time is almost up, but just to make sure, will you guys teach recall and stay as well? You kind of answered it with the heel, like stay is kind of, well, I guess it's only when I stop. Will you guys keep through the stay like confidently?
Yeah. Real quick, what program were you looking for?
I wasn't sure. I actually had website and even trying to find pricing, so I'm not really sure about all that.
So we have the in-person program, board and train, and daycare and train. Is there one right off the bat you're kind of interested in person board and train or daycare and train?
I would say it definitely would probably have to board and train or in person. It would definitely have to be one of those two, and I'm kind of leaning towards in person just because I'd like to be there for it.
Okay,
Just
so
with it, but yeah.
we always push for in person because how the program works, it's all verbal instruction. So I never touch the dog. I'm just telling you what to do. So all the training is right off the bat already connected to you. I have nothing to do with it. Now there is different programs within the in-person. So like there's the 3-week program, 6, 9, 12. 6, 9, 12 classes, right? From everything I'm gathering, if you want a heel, you want the stay, you want that nervousness and recall. Any other commands?
Like just the regular leash walk. I don't know if that's just tied into all that.
Yeah,
But
yeah. No matter what program you do, you'll be learning the heel.
it'd be cool if I could somehow. I kind of gave up on training her to be a hunting dog. I guess all she was missing was fetch. In that case,
We can definitely work on fetch. We've done that in the past. Okay, so from everything I'm gathering, you're more likely you want more of the obedience stuff, the 9-week program. If you're like wanting to just address the nervousness and like the behavior stuff and a recall, 6-week program is good too. That's bare bones though. The stationary control and the fetch stuff will be your 9-week program. Okay. You're also more than welcome to purchase a 6-week program, and then maybe you get everything, and maybe the nervousness goes away, the behavior stuff we're addressing quickly. And now we're like, oh wow, this is great. That could be enough, but it doesn't give you enough wiggle room, right? If you're wanting to learn more when you do the 9-week or the 6-week, you can always just buy the 3-week program to add those 3 classes, right? It won't be at prorate though. It'll be at the separate 3-week program costs, right? So it wouldn't be like just if you're just buying a 9-week instead of a 6-week. 1 hour once a week. I teach you one topic at a time, gives you enough time to practice. First 2 classes will be heal. 3rd class, I probably like to get the in-home stuff started. 4th class, depending on how in-home went and the nervousness is going, we can do recall. 5th class is a recall part 2. 6th class could be stationary, so stay or place. And then 7th can be like the fetch stuff. And then 8, we can see how everything's going, see if we need to use this class on anything specifically, or we can go over more obedience stuff, right? And then 9, same thing, depending on how everything's going. Usually the last class, I tell clients to save it. So I have a class from last year, use your last class this year, because maybe they're having a baby and they need a recap or review, or maybe they have another dog, or maybe their dog got attacked by a dog and now they're reactive again, or they regress, right? So they have that class there. So 9 and 8 can be whatever you're waiting or you're wanting at that moment. We have our sessions due to the weather. We are having our sessions here at the facility. Usually in the summertime, springtime, we operate at Oz Park or Palmer Square Park. We also do in-home. So if you want, again, I don't really care about the weather. So if you want to train at outside in the park area, I'm fine with that as long as you're cool with it and Paisley is comfortable with it. So it's kind of personal preference there. But we have enough space in the facility to kind of, work on a recall and those long distance commands there. Pros and cons about the in-person. Pros, again, it's all connected to you. You are the one training the dog. You're the one who's going to be walking the building and the apartment with the elevators every other day. I'm not. Cons is it does take longer. So what we can get done is 6 weeks. We can get done in 2 weeks during board and train program. Okay. Any questions about the in-person program?
No, not necessarily. And let me tell you, the only reason I was like thinking about those would have to be the 2. I know you said like Oz Park or something. I guess the biggest deal was I need her train me to travel with her, right? Because I can't I don't have a car. So it's like
So where are you located?
Lakeview East, like on Diversity, so like right where that uh driving range is, or the Diversity Harbor right there.
Yeah. You'll be saving money if you did a 9-week in-person program versus the board and train programs. The board and train programs, the reason why they're expensive is because we're obviously, taking care of your dog, you're feeding your dog, we're having your dog here at the facility, so stuff like that. So you'll be saving money if you do the in-person in-home with me, than the board and train. But board and train is as effective, but we can't tackle the in-home stuff. Obviously, we would have to wait and do that as a follow-up lesson. So with the 2-week board and train or any board and train program, they come with in-person follow-up lessons. So for example, the 2-week board and train program, Paisley will learn heel, stay, sit down, come, place. Are you familiar with place?
Yeah, that's actually a funny one. So place means like to her, it means like go to her crate.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, but she hates that one, and she'll try everything she can. Like she'll just lay down, fall over, and roll on her back, so that I have to like sort of drag her towards it, and then she'll like back up and get in there. But if I tell her bedtime, she'll just get up and go straight in there.
Okay. Yeah, places for us is go to that area, rug, carpet, her dog bed, sit, stand, lay down, chin to bone. I don't care what you do, just stay on the bed, right? So she'll learn all 6 commands within those 2 weeks. Elias is our board and train instructor. He does all the videos. So you'll get 2, depending on how many weeks you send her here, for every week you get a video. The first video is always going to be those introduction sessions. So you'll see her for the first time learning heel, learning stay, sit down, calm, place, right? So you're seeing that happen in real time, right? Once Elias teaches something, then Elias hands her off to the other handlers here to continue to repeat these behaviors or exercises, right? Because teaching something and then we're just reinforcing something are very different. Teaching is always difficult. So it's more for like the trainer, obviously, right? Second video is what's called the long leash video, right? Where we start to give, we connect Paisley to a 30-foot long leash. And now we're running through heel, stay, sit down, calm, place, and letting her know. It's more of like a building to off leash stuff, right? Getting her used to that picture. If you do a 3 board and train program, the third video is us applying those commands with the long leash in a play pen, in a play group setting with dogs. Then after that, if you're doing obviously the maximum would be 4 board and train. The 4th video for that is we take your dog to Horner Park or Palmer Square Park, and we kind of run through the obedience, how it functions in life. Depending on how the dog is with the obedience and the behavior, we do touch upon off-leash training there at that time. 2-week board and train program comes with 4 hours of follow-up. 3, 6, 4 is 8. I think I forget, right? But it comes with in person so that we can make sure everything is transferring over to you correctly and there's no issues there. Any questions about the board and train program?
Oh, I don't think so. I guess I just kind of want your opinion on what you would think. I guess she needs or what would be best. And again, I have no idea what these prices are. So if you could like send me an email or fill me in right now, that'd be good too.
So after this consultation, Tina, my assistant, is going to send you a follow-up email with the programs I talked about, with the prices. She's also going to send you the e-collar model I recommend from Dogtra. And she's going to send you a form that needs to be signed and agreed to. Once the form is signed and agreed to, we can go ahead and begin the billing and booking process. Paisley, the nervousness isn't that intense. Has she ever been to a daycare before?
Yeah, not a daycare, but I've boarded her once.
How does she do?
From what I know, she did good. Like I said, I don't know, like in big groups where there's a lot going on, she shuts down. She won't growl at people. She just wants to know what's going on. When there's big groups of dogs, she stays away from the big groups. When it's one-on-one with a dog, she'll play with them forever. So it's like she was probably just like chilling in the crate. That's
So it doesn't really matter because we will still get stuff done, right? But again, we always push for in person because you learn a lot more. If I take her on a training walk, we don't film our walks. So if I'm walking and I see a duck or a bird or a pigeon and I work her through that, you missed out on that, right? We still talk about it and we still, do walks with you, for follow-ups, but maybe she's at that point where she's not even doing it anymore. So now you're like, okay, she's not doing it. And we can't really like recreate that moment. You know what I mean? So for obedience wise and everything, looking at Paisley, it doesn't matter what you do, we'll still get it done. But again, in person, you do learn a lot more, and you get more from the program, the e-class stuff. Our clients happy with the board and train program? Yes, right. They still see the results in there. It's very noticeable to them, and they're very glad they did it. For in person, sometimes clients just love the hands-on. They love being there. They want to see everything happen. So it's kind of like more like a personal preference for you. But I do like the in-person program. I do see it become more valuable to dog owners. Any questions about that?
no.
Good answer now. Oh, I was just saying, like, I don't need an answer on which program you want. You can let Tina know when she sends you that follow-up email whenever you're ready and you're thinking about it, right? But I interrupted you. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was gonna say I was already kind of leaning more towards the in-person now. Obviously, that's like here where I live, right? Okay. Or like just around this area, because I think I'm like in a decent area where like she experiences a lot, especially like you were saying, like those random cars that go off, or like ambulances or fire trucks. We live like right next door to a hospital. She does that all the time. Squirrels all the time. So I was already leaning more towards that, and I am one of those people that like to kind of, because I'll hang on to it for a long time. So
Sure.
that, but you said that both price breakdowns will be in that email.
Yes, they'll be in that email. We sell the e-cards here as well. So if you want me to bring an e-card on first lesson, I can do that. Or if you want to order it yourself, or if you want us to ship it to you before, so you get kind of like a heads up before you start the train, that's all up to you. What else? Yeah, any questions about e-collar, training, programs, prices, or anything like that?
Well, I guess it does kind of depend, because I know, like you said, you'll have like a definite one about like how long it take. Would I have to sign up? Like, I guess my question is, because like, what if I commit to like 9 weeks, but she is nothing like I thought, and she picks it all up in three? You know? Like,
Yeah. I don't think they do like a refund thing there, right? But you do keep those classes, right? So I had a client who what were they doing? Something happened where they had to take a break, and it was a good break because we got a lot done. And to this day, I trained them last year, summertime, I think. They have 3 classes left, but those don't expire. They still have them so whenever they need it, right? So like I said, heal is going to take 2 classes for sure. In home for nervousness, recall, and then your stationary command, either stay or place, um, whichever one you want to learn. So stay, let's say stay. That's already 6 classes, right?
yeah,
So if you're wanting the obedience, I think the 9 week will be good for you. But again, for that 6 week, if you want a 6 week and you want to just kind of tackle the priority first and then see if you want the stuff later, it'll be heal, in home, recall. And then that last class can just be like, let's see how the behavior is going over and we can go over it again, right? So we don't need to worry about stationary commands. It's more of like just the priorities, your nervousness, right? Does that make sense? And then we can also, if we need to, we can make recall a 1 class thing. The second class of recall is more of like a advancement that's not completely necessary, but it is nice to kind of drill recall, because again, recall is a very important command for a dog's life. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, definitely. And I guess I can obviously make that final decision. But yeah, no, everything sounds super great. Yeah, top priority is definitely really the reason I'm here. Her growling at people, but you made me feel a lot better about that whole situation. So everything else is extra for me, honestly.
Correct. Um, So keep an eye out for that follow-up email. She should be sending it either tomorrow or the following day. So the latest should be Wednesday. Um, and like I said, keep an eye on the email. And then if you have any questions or anything else comes up before we start training, email me and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But other than that, Jacob, correct?
Sure.
Very nice speaking with you. And then we'll see how the future looks.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks for taking the time.
Sounds good. All righty. Have a good night.